Rebecca Martinez had always been underestimated. Standing barely 5 feet tall with calloused hands, and a perpetual smell of deck cleaner clinging to her uniform, she was invisible to most of the officers aboard the USS Valiant. While other sailors were assigned to radar operations, communications, or weapon systems, Rebecca found herself relegated to the most mundane tasks imaginable. Every morning at 500 hours, she would begin her routine of scrubbing the destroyer's vast metal surfaces until they gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights. The year was 1943, and the Pacific Theater was ablaze with naval warfare. The Valiant, a Fletcher-class destroyer, had been deployed to intercept enemy supply lines and gather intelligence on Japanese naval movements. Rebecca had enlisted with dreams of contributing meaningfully to the war effort, perhaps working in communications or navigation. Instead, she spent her days on her hands and knees, her uniform soaked with sweat and cleaning solutions, while male sailors half her age were given positions of responsibility. Lieutenant Commander Harrison Pierce epitomized everything Rebecca had come to despise about the Navy's hierarchy. A tall, imposing man with a perfectly pressed uniform and an air of superiority that followed him like cologne. Pierce had made it abundantly clear that women aboard his vessel were nothing more than a necessary inconvenience. During Rebecca's first week aboard the Valiant, Pierce had publicly announced that female personnel would be restricted to maintenance and cleaning duties, claiming that the complexities of modern naval warfare were beyond their comprehension. Rebecca's educational background told a different story. Before the war, she had completed a degree in mathematics from Columbia University, graduating summa cum laude with a particular talent for cryptography and pattern recognition. She had taught high school mathematics for 3 years before deciding to enlist, driven by a desire to serve her country and prove that women could contribute just as meaningfully as men to the war effort. Her application had specifically requested assignment to the Communications Division, where her skills could be utilized effectively. Instead, she found herself scrubbing barnacles off the ship's hull and polishing brass fixtures until her reflection stared back at her from every surface. The irony wasn't lost on her that, while she possessed the intellectual capability to decode enemy transmissions, she was instead decoding the patterns of rust and wear on the ship's metal surfaces. Her fellow sailors, most of whom had barely finished high school, operated sophisticated radio equipment and radar systems, while she wielded a mop and bucket. The Pacific sun beat down mercilessly as Rebecca worked, her movements methodical and precise, even in the most menial tasks. She had learned to find small victories in her situation, taking pride in maintaining the cleanest sections of the ship. Other sailors would often comment on the spotless condition of areas under her care, though none seemed to consider that such attention to detail might indicate capabilities beyond manual labor. During her off-duty hours, Rebecca would retreat to her cramped quarters and read technical manuals she had borrowed from the ship's library. She studied radio procedures, naval codes, and communication protocols with the same intensity she had once applied to mathematical theorems. Knowledge, she reasoned, was something that couldn't be taken away by prejudice or circumstance. Lieutenant Commander Pierce seemed to take particular pleasure in assigning Rebecca the most degrading tasks possible. When visiting officers toured the ship, he would ensure that Rebecca was prominently visible, scrubbing floors or cleaning latrines, as if to demonstrate his authority and the proper place of women in his command structure. His treatment of her bordered on harassment, though always carefully calibrated to avoid official complaint. The morning that would change everything began like countless others. Rebecca reported to the deck at dawn, her cleaning supplies organized with military precision. The Valiant was cruising through waters known to be frequented by enemy submarines, and tension among the crew was palpable. Radio chatter had been unusually heavy throughout the night, with coded transmissions crackling through the ship's communication systems at regular intervals. As Rebecca worked near the radio room, she couldn't help but notice the frustrated voices of the communications officers. Through the partially open door, she could see them hunched over their equipment, surrounded by stacks of paper covered in seemingly random letters and numbers. Their body language suggested they were struggling with something significant, and their urgent whispers carried the weight of operational importance. Commander Pierce's voice cut through the morning air like a blade. "Martinez, stop gawking and get back to work. Those floors won't clean themselves, and I won't have this ship looking like a floating garbage scow when Admiral Richardson arrives for inspection." His tone carried the familiar edge of condescension that had become the soundtrack to Rebecca's naval service. Rebecca nodded silently and returned to her scrubbing, but her mind was already working on a different problem. The fragments of coded transmission she had overheard weren't random at all. Even from her position outside the radio room, she could detect patterns in the seemingly chaotic strings of letters and numbers. Her mathematical training had taught her to recognize underlying structures in apparent randomness, and something about these enemy codes was triggering her analytical instincts. The USS Valiant continued its patrol through the vast Pacific, carrying with it a cleaning woman who would soon prove that intelligence and capability aren't determined by the tasks one is assigned, but by the mind that performs them. Rebecca Martinez was about to transform from an overlooked maintenance worker into the key to unlocking enemy secrets that would alter the course of naval warfare in the Pacific theater. Rebecca's opportunity came during an unexpected moment of chaos. A Japanese submarine had been detected in the area, and the ship's communication officers were working frantically to decode intercepted enemy transmissions. The radio room had become a hub of intense activity, with officers rushing in and out carrying transcripts and code books. In the confusion, several sheets of intercepted Japanese naval codes had been carelessly left on a table near the door where Rebecca was cleaning. As she worked, Rebecca's eyes naturally fell upon the abandoned papers. The strings of letters and numbers that had frustrated the professional codebreakers suddenly began to make sense to her mathematically trained mind. She recognized a substitution pattern that the other officers had missed, a subtle mathematical progression that revealed itself only when viewed from a specific analytical perspective. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She was looking at the key to the Japanese naval cipher system. Her heart raced as she memorized the pattern, her mind automatically calculating the mathematical relationships between the coded letters and their likely meanings. Years of mathematical training had prepared her for exactly this type of pattern recognition, though she had never imagined applying it to enemy cryptography. The code wasn't as complex as the Germans' Enigma system, but it was sophisticated enough to have stumped the Navy's trained codebreakers for weeks. Rebecca faced an immediate dilemma. Protocol demanded that she report her discovery to Lieutenant Commander Pierce, but she knew his reaction would be predictable. He would dismiss her observations as the fantasies of an overambitious cleaning woman, possibly even disciplining her for presuming to understand matters beyond her station. Yet the information she had discovered could save lives and potentially change the outcome of naval engagements throughout the Pacific. The weight of her decision pressed down on her as she continued her cleaning duties. Around her, the ship's officers struggled with the same codes she had begun to understand, their frustration growing with each passing hour. Intelligence reports indicated that a major Japanese naval operation was planned for the following week, and the ability to decode enemy communications could provide the American fleet with a decisive advantage. Rebecca's mathematical mind continued working on the problem, even as she performed her mundane tasks. The pattern she had identified was elegant in its simplicity, based on a numerical sequence that corresponded to traditional Japanese counting methods. Once the underlying mathematical structure was understood, the entire cipher system became transparent. She could decode enemy transmissions in her head faster than the trained cryptographers could work with their code books and reference materials. As the day progressed, Rebecca overheard increasing urgency in the radio room. A major Japanese convoy had been detected, and the intercepted communications suggested a coordinated attack on American positions. The codebreakers were working around the clock to decipher the enemy's plans, but their progress was frustratingly slow. Every hour that passed brought the enemy closer to executing their operation, while American forces remained in the dark about the specifics. The moral weight of her situation became unbearable. Rebecca possessed information that could save American lives, yet she was trapped by a system that valued her gender and assigned role over her actual capabilities. The irony was devastating. While highly trained male officers struggled with the codes, a woman relegated to cleaning duties had solved the puzzle they couldn't crack. That evening, Rebecca made a decision that would either vindicate her faith in her own abilities or result in severe punishment for overstepping her authority. She would find a way to demonstrate her discovery without directly challenging the command structure that had marginalized her. The plan she devised was risky, but it offered the possibility of contributing meaningfully to the war effort while protecting herself from immediate retaliation. Rebecca's plan required careful timing and considerable courage. She would need to find a way to present her solution in a manner that wouldn't immediately trigger Lieutenant Commander Pierce's defensive instincts. The coded transmissions she had deciphered contained information about enemy ship movements, attack schedules, and strategic objectives that could provide American forces with an unprecedented advantage. The next morning brought news that crystallized Rebecca's resolve. A Japanese naval force was approaching American positions, and the intercepted communications contained crucial details about their attack plans. The ship's codebreakers had made minimal progress, managing to decode only fragments of the enemy transmissions. Time was running out, and American sailors would soon face an enemy whose intentions remained largely mysterious. Rebecca's moment of truth was approaching. Armed with mathematical insights that could change the course of naval warfare, she prepared to challenge a system that had consistently underestimated her capabilities. The cleaning woman was about to become the key to American naval intelligence, though the path to recognition would test every ounce of her courage and determination. During the morning briefing, the tension in the officers' wardroom was palpable. Commander Pierce stood before a group of frustrated officers, his usually confident demeanor showing cracks of uncertainty. Intelligence reports indicated that a significant Japanese naval operation was imminent, but the intercepted communications remained largely incomprehensible to the ship's cryptography team. Maps covered the table, marked with potential enemy positions and attack vectors, but the critical details remained locked within the coded transmissions. "Gentlemen," Pierce began, his voice carrying the weight of command responsibility, "we're operating blind here. The Japanese are planning something major, and we're playing guessing games with their communications. Our best cryptographers have been working on these codes for 72 hours with minimal success. We need answers, and we need them fast." Lieutenant James Morrison, the ship's communications officer, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. A graduate of the Naval Academy with specialized training in cryptography, he had been personally selected for his position based on his academic credentials and technical aptitude. The failure to decode the enemy transmissions was a professional embarrassment that weighed heavily on his shoulders. "Sir," Morrison replied, "we've identified several recurring patterns in the transmissions, but the underlying cipher system remains elusive. It's more sophisticated than anything we've encountered in this theater. We've requested assistance from Pearl Harbor's cryptography division, but they're overwhelmed with their own intelligence priorities." Rebecca listened to this exchange from the corridor outside the wardroom, where she was cleaning the brass fixtures that lined the ship's main passageway. Her cleaning duties had granted her access to areas typically restricted to officers, and she had learned to move through the ship almost invisibly. The irony of her situation was acute. She possessed the solution to the problem that was keeping the ship's most educated officers awake at night. The mathematical structure of the Japanese cipher had become increasingly clear to her analytical mind. It was based on a rotating substitution system that incorporated elements of traditional Japanese numerology, combined with a temporal component that changed the cipher key according to a predictable calendar sequence. The pattern was elegant and sophisticated, but it relied on mathematical principles that were well within her area of expertise. As she continued her cleaning duties, Rebecca formulated a plan that would allow her to share her discovery without directly challenging the command hierarchy. She would need to present her solution in a way that appeared to emerge naturally from the existing cryptographic efforts, rather than as a revelation from an unlikely source. The approach would require careful misdirection and considerable psychological insight into the personalities of the officers involved. Rebecca's first step involved creating a situation where her presence in the radio room would appear necessary and unremarkable. She began volunteering for additional cleaning duties in that area, establishing a pattern of regular access that wouldn't raise suspicions. Her work ethic had always been exemplary, and requests for extra assignments were consistent with her reputation for dedication and thoroughness. Over the following days, Rebecca carefully observed the cryptographer's working methods and identified the specific areas where they were encountering difficulties. Their approach was methodical and technically sound, but they were missing the underlying mathematical relationships that would unlock the cipher system. She realized that her contribution would need to guide them toward the correct analytical framework without revealing the full extent of her involvement. The opportunity presented itself during a late-night shift when the radio room was staffed by a skeleton crew. Lieutenant Morrison was working alone, surrounded by stacks of coded transmissions and reference materials. His frustration was evident as he repeatedly attempted different decryption approaches, each one failing to produce coherent results. The weight of responsibility was clearly affecting his concentration and analytical clarity. Rebecca entered the room under the pretense of cleaning the floor, her presence barely registered by the absorbed officer. As she worked, she positioned herself where she could observe Morrison's decryption attempts and identify the specific point where his analysis was diverging from the correct solution. The moment had arrived for her to begin subtly guiding the professional cryptographer toward the breakthrough that would vindicate her mathematical insights. Her plan required patience and psychological finesse. She would need to plant seeds of analytical insight that would allow Morrison to believe he had discovered the solution independently. The approach would protect her from potential retaliation, while ensuring that the critical intelligence would reach the appropriate command personnel. Rebecca Martinez was about to begin her transformation from invisible cleaning woman to the secret architect of American naval intelligence success. Rebecca's subtle intervention began with a carefully orchestrated accident. As she cleaned near Lieutenant Morrison's workspace, she deliberately knocked over a cup of coffee, sending the liquid cascading across several documents. Morrison jumped up in alarm, and Rebecca immediately began apologizing profusely while helping to clean up the mess. In the confusion, she managed to arrange the coded transmissions in a specific order that would highlight the mathematical patterns she had identified. "I'm so sorry, Lieutenant Morrison," Rebecca said, her voice carrying genuine distress. "I hope I haven't damaged anything important. These documents look incredibly complicated." Her comment was calculated to appear innocent while drawing attention to the specific papers she had strategically positioned. Morrison's initial irritation quickly faded as he began reorganizing the scattered documents. As he sorted through the coded transmissions, his trained eye began to notice relationships between the different messages that hadn't been apparent when they were arranged chronologically. The mathematical progression that Rebecca had identified was starting to emerge from the new organizational structure. "Actually," Morrison said slowly, his analytical mind beginning to engage with the patterns, "this might not be such a disaster after all. Looking at these transmissions in this sequence, I'm starting to see some interesting relationships." He paused, studying the documents with renewed focus. "There's definitely a mathematical component to this cipher that we've been missing." Rebecca continued her cleaning duties while carefully monitoring Morrison's progress. She could see the exact moment when he began to grasp the underlying structure of the Japanese cipher system. His body language changed from frustrated confusion to focused concentration as the mathematical relationships became clear. Her strategic arrangement of the documents had provided the analytical framework he needed to unlock the code. Over the following hours, Morrison worked with increased intensity, building upon the insights that Rebecca's intervention had provided. She remained in the radio room, ostensibly cleaning but actually observing his progress and providing subtle guidance when necessary. When he seemed to be veering away from the correct analytical path, she would find small ways to redirect his attention to the relevant patterns. The breakthrough came near dawn. Morrison suddenly straightened in his chair, his eyes wide with the recognition of discovery. "I've got it," he whispered to himself, then louder, "I've actually got it." The Japanese cipher system had finally yielded its secrets, and the coded transmissions were beginning to reveal their crucial intelligence. Rebecca felt a surge of satisfaction as she watched Morrison decode the enemy communications. The intercepted messages contained detailed information about Japanese naval movements, attack schedules, and strategic objectives. The intelligence was exactly what the American fleet needed to counter the enemy's planned operations. Her mathematical insights had unlocked secrets that would save American lives and potentially alter the course of naval warfare in the Pacific. Morrison's excitement was palpable as he began transcribing the decoded messages. The information was extraordinary. Precise coordinates for enemy ship positions, timing for coordinated attacks, and strategic objectives that revealed the full scope of Japanese naval planning. Armed with this intelligence, American forces could position themselves to counter enemy operations with unprecedented effectiveness. As the morning watch change approached, Morrison prepared to brief Commander Pierce on his breakthrough. Rebecca quietly gathered her cleaning supplies and prepared to leave the radio room, her mission accomplished. She had successfully guided the professional cryptographer to the solution without revealing her own role in the discovery. The intelligence would reach the appropriate command personnel, and American naval forces would benefit from her mathematical insights. The irony of her situation wasn't lost on Rebecca. While she would receive no recognition for her crucial contribution, she had proven to herself that intelligence and capability transcend assigned roles and societal expectations. The cleaning woman had outsmarted the enemy's cryptographers and provided American forces with a decisive advantage, even though her contribution would remain forever invisible to the official record. Morrison's urgent summons brought Commander Pierce to the radio room within minutes. The commander's usual stern expression gave way to intense interest as Morrison explained his breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system. Rebecca lingered in the corridor, using her cleaning duties as cover while she listened to the briefing that would transform her mathematical insights into actionable naval intelligence. "Sir," Morrison began, his voice tight with excitement, "I've managed to crack the Japanese naval cipher. The breakthrough came when I recognized the mathematical structure underlying their substitution system. It's based on a rotating numerical sequence that incorporates traditional Japanese counting methods, combined with a temporal component that changes according to their calendar system." Pierce leaned forward, his attention completely focused on the decoded intelligence. "What exactly are we looking at, Lieutenant? Give me the strategic implications." Morrison spread the decoded transmissions across the table, his hands trembling slightly with the magnitude of his discovery. "Sir, this is unprecedented. We have complete intelligence on a major Japanese naval operation planned for tomorrow. 14 enemy vessels, including 3 heavy cruisers and a battleship, are converging on our supply convoy routes. The attack is scheduled to begin at 600 hours, approximately 200 nautical miles northwest of our current position." The weight of this revelation transformed Pierce's demeanor immediately. The intelligence Morrison had provided represented exactly the kind of strategic advantage that could turn the tide of naval warfare. American forces would be able to position themselves to counter the enemy attack with full knowledge of Japanese intentions, ship positions, and timing. "This is extraordinary work, Lieutenant," Pierce said, his voice carrying genuine appreciation. "How quickly can you decode additional transmissions? We need to understand the full scope of their operations and identify any secondary objectives." Rebecca listened from the corridor as Morrison outlined the decryption process, carefully omitting any reference to the assistance he had received. She felt a complex mixture of pride and frustration as she heard him describe the mathematical insights that were entirely her own discoveries. The solution that had been obvious to her trained mind was being presented as a brilliant breakthrough by the professional cryptographer. The subsequent hours transformed the USS Valiant into a hub of intense activity. Pierce immediately communicated the decoded intelligence to Fleet Headquarters, and American naval forces began repositioning to counter the Japanese threat. The information Rebecca had unlocked was being used to coordinate defensive strategies across the entire Pacific theater. As the ship prepared for combat operations, Rebecca continued her cleaning duties with the same methodical precision she had always maintained. The knowledge that her mathematical insights were protecting American sailors provided a sense of purpose that transcended the mundane nature of her assigned tasks. She had found a way to contribute meaningfully to the war effort, even though her contribution would remain invisible to official recognition. The battle that followed would prove the value of Rebecca's intelligence breakthrough. American forces engaged the Japanese naval convoy with complete knowledge of enemy positions and intentions, resulting in a decisive victory that disrupted Japanese supply lines throughout the Pacific. The success of the operation was attributed to superior naval intelligence and the brilliant cryptographic work of Lieutenant Morrison. Pierce's official report would praise Morrison's breakthrough as a testament to the superior training and analytical capabilities of American naval personnel. The mathematical insights that had unlocked the Japanese cipher system would be credited to the professional cryptographer, while the cleaning woman who had actually solved the puzzle would continue her invisible service aboard the USS Valiant. Rebecca's feelings about the situation were complex. On one hand, she was frustrated by the lack of recognition for her crucial contribution. On the other hand, she had proven to herself that intelligence and capability couldn't be diminished by prejudice or circumstance. The cleaning woman had outsmarted enemy cryptographers and provided American forces with a strategic advantage that would save lives and alter the course of naval warfare. The success of the intelligence operation established Morrison as one of the Navy's most skilled cryptographers. His breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system earned him commendations and promotion opportunities that would define his naval career. The irony that his success was built upon the unrecognized insights of a woman relegated to cleaning duties was lost on everyone except Rebecca herself. The aftermath of the naval battle brought a new dynamic to the USS Valiant. The successful intelligence operation had elevated the ship's status within the Pacific Fleet, and Commander Pierce found himself receiving congratulations from superior officers throughout the chain of command. The breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system was being hailed as a masterpiece of naval cryptography, with Morrison receiving recognition as a brilliant analyst whose insights had provided American forces with decisive advantages. Rebecca watched these developments with mixed emotions as she continued her cleaning duties. The decoded intelligence had indeed saved American lives and disrupted enemy operations, validating her mathematical insights in the most meaningful way possible. Yet she remained invisible to the official narrative, her contribution erased by the prejudices that had relegated her to menial tasks from the moment she stepped aboard the destroyer. The Japanese cipher system that Rebecca had unlocked continued to yield valuable intelligence as more enemy transmissions were intercepted. Morrison, now confident in his analytical approach, was decoding enemy communications with increasing efficiency. The mathematical framework that Rebecca had provided was being applied to new intelligence challenges, consistently producing results that enhanced American strategic planning. Pierce's attitude toward the intelligence operation reflected his growing confidence in Morrison's abilities. The commander had begun consulting with the lieutenant on strategic matters that extended beyond simple code breaking, recognizing him as a valuable analytical resource. The success of the cipher breakthrough had transformed Morrison from a competent officer into an indispensable member of the ship's command structure. Rebecca's daily routine remained unchanged despite the strategic importance of her contribution. Each morning, she reported for cleaning duties at 500 hours, her uniform pressed, and her equipment organized with military precision. The irony of her situation had become a constant reminder of the gap between individual capability and institutional recognition. The intelligence derived from the Japanese cipher system continued to flow through American naval commands, informing strategic decisions across the Pacific theater. Rebecca's mathematical insights were being used to coordinate fleet movements, plan offensive operations, and protect American convoys from enemy attack. The scope of her contribution extended far beyond the single naval engagement that had first demonstrated the value of her breakthrough. As weeks passed, Rebecca began to notice changes in the behavior of some crew members. While she remained largely invisible to the ship's officers, several enlisted sailors had begun treating her with a subtle respect that hadn't existed before. They seemed to sense that something had changed about her role aboard the Valiant, though they couldn't articulate the nature of that change. The mathematical patterns that had initially attracted Rebecca's attention to the Japanese cipher system continued to fascinate her analytical mind. During her off-duty hours, she found herself studying other aspects of enemy communications, identifying additional vulnerabilities in their security systems. Her insights extended beyond the original breakthrough, encompassing a broader understanding of Japanese cryptographic methods. Morrison's growing reputation as a skilled cryptographer had brought him to the attention of higher naval commands. Intelligence officers from Pearl Harbor had begun consulting with him on challenging code-breaking assignments, seeking his analytical expertise on enemy communications from throughout the Pacific. The mathematical insights that Rebecca had provided were being applied to strategic intelligence challenges across the entire theater of operations. The success of the Japanese cipher breakthrough had also attracted the attention of enemy intelligence services. Japanese cryptographers had begun to suspect that their communications were being decoded, leading to increased security measures and more sophisticated cipher systems. The intellectual arms race between code makers and code breakers was escalating, with Rebecca's insights forming the foundation of American advantages in this crucial competition. Pierce's official reports continued to praise Morrison's analytical brilliance, while making no mention of the circumstances that had led to the breakthrough. The mathematical insights that had unlocked the Japanese cipher system were being attributed entirely to the professional cryptographer, with no reference to the cleaning woman whose analytical capabilities had made the discovery possible. Rebecca's contribution to the war effort remained invisible to official recognition, but her impact on naval operations was undeniable. The intelligence derived from her breakthrough continued to save American lives and disrupt enemy operations throughout the Pacific theater. Her mathematical insights had become an integral part of American naval strategy, even though her role in developing that strategy remained hidden from the historical record. The transformed dynamic aboard the USS Valiant began to manifest in unexpected ways. While Rebecca's official duties remained unchanged, she found herself increasingly aware of conversations and activities that had previously been beyond her notice. The success of the intelligence operation had created an atmosphere of heightened alertness and strategic thinking that permeated the entire ship. Morrison's elevated status within the command structure had brought him into regular contact with Pierce and other senior officers. Rebecca observed these interactions during her cleaning duties, noting how her mathematical insights were being translated into strategic recommendations and operational plans. The intellectual framework she had provided was being used to analyze enemy communications with unprecedented effectiveness. The Japanese response to their compromised cipher system had introduced new challenges for American cryptographers. Enemy communications had become more sophisticated and harder to decode, requiring advanced mathematical techniques that pushed the boundaries of conventional cryptographic analysis. Rebecca found herself mentally engaged with these new challenges, developing potential solutions that she had no way to communicate to the appropriate personnel. Pierce's leadership style had evolved in response to the intelligence success. The commander had become more collaborative in his approach to strategic planning, seeking input from Morrison and other technical specialists. The breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system had demonstrated the value of analytical expertise, leading to a more intellectually rigorous approach to naval operations. Rebecca's perspective on her situation had also begun to change. While she remained frustrated by the lack of recognition for her contributions, she had gained confidence in her own analytical abilities. The knowledge that her mathematical insights were protecting American sailors provided a sense of purpose that transcended the limitations of her assigned role. The broader implications of Rebecca's breakthrough extended beyond the immediate tactical advantages it provided. The success of the intelligence operation had demonstrated the importance of mathematical analysis in modern warfare, leading to increased investment in cryptographic research and development. Her insights had contributed to a fundamental shift in how naval intelligence was approached and valued. As the war in the Pacific continued to evolve, the intelligence derived from Rebecca's mathematical breakthrough remained a crucial component of American strategic planning. The Japanese cipher system she had unlocked continued to yield valuable information about enemy intentions and capabilities, providing American forces with advantages that altered the course of naval engagements throughout the theater. The invisible nature of Rebecca's contribution had become a defining characteristic of her naval service. While she remained relegated to cleaning duties, her mathematical insights were being used to coordinate fleet movements, plan offensive operations, and protect American convoys from enemy attack. The scope of her impact on the war effort was vast, even though her role in achieving that impact remained hidden from official recognition. Morrison's career trajectory had been fundamentally altered by the breakthrough that Rebecca had made possible. His reputation as a skilled cryptographer had opened doors to advanced training opportunities and prestigious assignments that would define his future in naval intelligence. The mathematical insights that had unlocked the Japanese cipher system had become the foundation of his professional success. The ongoing intelligence operation required constant adaptation as Japanese cryptographers modified their communication systems in response to suspected compromises. Rebecca's mathematical framework provided the analytical foundation for understanding these changes, allowing American cryptographers to maintain their advantage even as enemy security measures became more sophisticated. Pierce's command of the USS Valiant had been enhanced by the intelligence capabilities that Rebecca's breakthrough had provided. The ship had become a valuable asset in the broader strategic framework of Pacific naval operations, with its cryptographic capabilities contributing to fleet-wide intelligence gathering and analysis. The commander's career prospects had been significantly improved by the success of operations that relied on intelligence derived from Rebecca's mathematical insights. The psychological impact of operating with superior intelligence was evident throughout the ship's crew. Sailors who had previously faced enemy threats with limited information now approached their duties with the confidence that came from understanding enemy intentions and capabilities. The morale boost provided by effective intelligence was a testament to the value of Rebecca's analytical contributions. The mathematical elegance of the Japanese cipher system continued to fascinate Rebecca even as she performed her mundane cleaning duties. Her mind remained engaged with the intellectual challenges of cryptographic analysis, developing insights and techniques that could have revolutionized American intelligence capabilities if they had been properly recognized and utilized. The gap between her analytical potential and her assigned role represented a profound waste of intellectual resources. The war's progression had brought new challenges and opportunities for intelligence operations. Rebecca's breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system had established precedents for mathematical analysis in naval cryptography, influencing how future intelligence challenges would be approached. Her invisible contribution had helped to reshape the intellectual foundations of American naval intelligence, even though her role in that transformation remained unrecognized. The USS Valiant's intelligence operations had become a model for other naval vessels, with Morrison's techniques being studied and adopted throughout the Pacific Fleet. The mathematical insights that Rebecca had provided were being disseminated across the entire theater of operations, multiplying the impact of her analytical breakthrough. Her contribution to the war effort extended far beyond the single ship where she performed her cleaning duties. As the conflict in the Pacific entered a new phase, The intelligence advantages that Rebecca had made possible continued to provide American forces with crucial strategic benefits. The Japanese cipher system she had unlocked remained a valuable source of information about enemy intentions and capabilities, contributing to operational successes that saved American lives and disrupted enemy operations. The personal cost of Rebecca's invisible contribution had become increasingly apparent as her naval service continued. While she took pride in the knowledge that her mathematical insights were protecting American sailors, the lack of recognition for her crucial role created a sense of professional and personal isolation. She had proven her analytical capabilities in the most meaningful way possible, yet she remained trapped in a system that valued her gender and assigned role over her actual contributions. The transformation of the USS Valiant into a premier intelligence-gathering vessel had brought increased attention from higher naval commands. The ship's cryptographic capabilities were being leveraged for increasingly sophisticated intelligence operations, with Rebecca's mathematical framework providing the analytical foundation for these expanded missions. Her breakthrough had created opportunities for intelligence gathering that extended far beyond the original scope of her discovery. Morrison's recognition as a skilled cryptographer had opened doors to collaboration with the Navy's most advanced intelligence units. The mathematical insights that Rebecca had provided were being applied to classified projects that pushed the boundaries of cryptographic analysis. Her analytical framework had become a crucial component of American intelligence capabilities, even though her role in developing that framework remained hidden from the historical record. The ongoing success of intelligence operations based on Rebecca's breakthrough had solidified Pierce's reputation as an effective commander who understood the value of analytical expertise. His leadership style had evolved to incorporate the lessons learned from the cipher breakthrough, creating an environment where intellectual capabilities were recognized and utilized more effectively. The transformation of his command philosophy represented an indirect acknowledgement of the value of Rebecca's contributions. The broader implications of Rebecca's mathematical insights extended beyond naval intelligence to influence American cryptographic research and development. Her analytical approach to the Japanese cipher system had demonstrated techniques that would inform future intelligence operations and contribute to the development of more sophisticated analytical methods. The intellectual framework she had provided would continue to influence American intelligence capabilities long after the war's conclusion. The evolution of Japanese cryptographic methods in response to suspected compromises had created new challenges that required advanced mathematical analysis. Rebecca's insights continued to provide the analytical foundation for understanding these changes, allowing American cryptographers to maintain their advantage, even as enemy security measures became more sophisticated. Her mathematical framework had proven adaptable to new challenges, demonstrating the fundamental soundness of her analytical approach. The personal satisfaction that Rebecca derived from her invisible contribution had become a defining aspect of her naval service. While she remained frustrated by the lack of recognition for her crucial role, she had gained confidence in her own analytical abilities and their value to the war effort. The knowledge that her mathematical insights were protecting American sailors provided a sense of purpose that transcended the limitations of her assigned role. The USS Valiant's reputation as an effective intelligence-gathering vessel had attracted the attention of enemy forces, leading to increased security measures and more cautious operational procedures. The success of intelligence operations based on Rebecca's breakthrough had made the ship a valuable target for enemy action, creating new challenges for the crew's safety and operational effectiveness. The mathematical techniques that Rebecca had developed for analyzing the Japanese cipher system had proven applicable to other intelligence challenges, expanding the scope of their usefulness beyond the original breakthrough. Her analytical framework had become a valuable tool for understanding enemy communications across multiple theaters of operation, contributing to intelligence successes that extended far beyond the Pacific Fleet. The war's progression had brought new opportunities for Rebecca to contribute to intelligence operations, though always in her invisible capacity as a cleaning woman with extraordinary analytical capabilities. Her mathematical insights continued to provide crucial advantages for American forces, even as her official role remained unchanged. The gap between her contributions and her recognition had become a defining characteristic of her naval service. The final phase of Rebecca's invisible intelligence career began when the war in the Pacific entered its climactic period. American forces were preparing for what would prove to be the decisive campaigns against Japanese positions, and intelligence had become more crucial than ever. The mathematical insights that Rebecca had provided continued to inform strategic planning and operational decisions throughout the theater of operations. Pierce's command of the USS Valiant had reached new heights of effectiveness, with the ship's intelligence capabilities contributing to major strategic successes. The breakthrough with the Japanese cipher system had established the destroyer as a valuable asset in the broader framework of Pacific naval operations, with its cryptographic capabilities being leveraged for increasingly sophisticated intelligence missions. Morrison's career had been transformed by the success of operations based on Rebecca's mathematical breakthrough. His reputation as a skilled cryptographer had opened doors to advanced training opportunities and prestigious assignments that would define his future in naval intelligence. The analytical insights that Rebecca had provided had become the foundation of his professional success, even though her role in that success remained invisible. The Japanese response to their compromised communications had led to increasingly sophisticated cipher systems that challenged American cryptographic capabilities. Rebecca's mathematical framework continued to provide the analytical foundation for understanding these new challenges, allowing American intelligence operations to maintain their effectiveness even as enemy security measures became more advanced. The broader impact of Rebecca's contribution extended beyond immediate tactical advantages to influence the fundamental approach to naval intelligence. Her mathematical insights had demonstrated the value of analytical expertise in modern warfare, leading to increased investment in cryptographic research and development. The intellectual framework she had provided would continue to influence American intelligence capabilities long after the war's conclusion. The personal cost of Rebecca's invisible service had become increasingly apparent as the war progressed. While she took pride in the knowledge that her mathematical insights were protecting American sailors, the lack of recognition for her crucial contributions created a sense of professional and personal isolation. She had proven her analytical capabilities in the most meaningful way possible, yet she remained trapped in a system that valued her gender and assigned role over her actual abilities. The transformation of American naval intelligence capabilities had been profoundly influenced by Rebecca's breakthrough, though her role in that transformation remained hidden from the historical record. The mathematical techniques she had developed for analyzing enemy communications had become standard components of American cryptographic operations, contributing to intelligence successes throughout the Pacific theater. The USS Valiant's final intelligence operations of the war would demonstrate the enduring value of Rebecca's analytical contributions. As American forces prepared for the war's conclusion, the intelligence derived from her mathematical breakthrough continued to provide crucial advantages for strategic planning and operational effectiveness. Her invisible contribution had helped to shape the course of naval warfare in the Pacific, even though her role in that achievement would never be officially recognized. The war's end brought a bittersweet conclusion to Rebecca's naval service. While American victory in the Pacific had been achieved through the combined efforts of millions of service members, she knew that her mathematical insights had contributed to intelligence successes.